The great painter has something to say. He does not paint men, landscapes, or furniture, but an idea.
Animation is cinema. Animation is not a genre. And animation is ready to be taken to the next step. We are all ready for it.
And the only way that you can exercise the mind is by bringing new ideas to it. So it'll be surprise.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Makin Toons. I am one of your hosts, Cunningham, and I am joined, of course, by the effervescent Allan Neuwirth. Later today, we will be talking with two wonderful animators, Signe Baumane and Debra Solomon. They'll be talking about their work, their experiences, a lot of great information in terms of multiple pathways animators can take to find sustainable success. There is no one way to do it. But to get us there, I want to start us off talking about what I think are the three levels of animation. The studio level of Disney, DreamWorks, the mid-tiers, former UPA, Hanna-Barbera a little bit, and of course, completely independent animation. And Allan, I think you're a wonderful person to talk to about this because you have experience with basically all of these. I think I'd like to start us off by asking you about, and this is not a shameless plug, it's just a really good example. You recently made an independently financed animated film called Flower of the Dawn, the voices of Jane Lynch, Mel Brooks, Matt Lucas. I'm curious as to how that structure worked for you.
Well, I was already making films with my producing partner on that film. But we had not done an animated film. Now, I should point out that even while I was making live action features, I never stopped making animated television programming. And she knew that. I mean, I would take breaks for however long I had to, sometimes a year, sometimes a couple of months away from animation, but I always came back to it because I love it.
Mhm.
And we discussed a couple of times over the years, we had discussed doing an animated project together. She was doing some short animated films of her own, just little shorts. But we talked about, and she is European, German, Austrian, and she had fairy tales that she grew up with over there. And she said that she had a favorite fairy tale that she wanted to animate. And so that's all I had to hear. And, I went off and with my composing partner, Jody Gray, we formulated an outline for it was too dark. Fairy tales are too dark, usually. They're full of violence and
Oh yes, the original fairy tales are very adult.
eyeballs being plucked out of heads by crows, happy things like that. And
Very happy.
long story short, I went off and I wrote a script. Jody and I wrote songs. The project, we recruited a great voice cast. I mostly did that myself, but you call friends and you call acquaintances, and I just happened to meet Jane Lynch at a party, and we hit it off. And so I asked her, and we became friends, and so that was an easy ask too. Um, in other cases, we knew that we had a character we wanted to sound something like Jennifer Holliday from Dreamgirls, and so we looked at each other and said, maybe we should just ask Jennifer Holliday. And she said yes. So
Amazing.
I know it's crazy. So we put a great cast together, and then we embarked on making the film. And it took from beginning to end probably 6 years, 7 years for a 40-minute film, which is, and by the way, the story's not fully done yet because the film is finished and it had its premiere at a festival a few months ago, but we have a sales agent out there now trying to sell it. So it's a journey. Making an independent film is a journey, and it's not for the faint-hearted or the weak-willed.
Yep.
It's a lot. It's a lot to go through.
So that film was independently financed, right? The budget was over 1 million, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was 1.7, if I recall.
1.7 million, and that was raised independently through various sources.
Yeah.
Due to that budget level, how, let's compare that to something more studio or mid-tier based. If you didn't have to spend time doing it piecemeal, which I believe it sounds like you did, What would it have taken to do 40 minutes of animation if you had full financing at a
We
studio?
didn't actually we didn't do the animation piecemeal. What happened was you have to get a little resourceful sometimes, and so doing things in certain parts of the world because of the conversion of money and all of that, it's more efficient. We ended up going with brilliant animators in Spain.
Spain is a wonderful animation hub right now.
Oh my God,
Tongal
yeah.
animators are based in Spain.
Yes, and just fantastic. We got top tier animators. I should also point out that the crew was really from all over the world because we had storyboards being done in London, in LA, in New York. We hired artists from all over the place, and it was truly an international production. So, which is kind of appropriate because the story was set in Europe in an indeterminate sort of time period, I guess, sort of the 16 or 1700s,
Hmm.
fairy tale land. So that's how we were able, once we got going, it was pretty steady. How long? I'm trying to remember, it's been a while, but it probably took us about a year or so to do the animated portion. But there was all the design that, leading up to that, it was a process.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a real problem. We even had maquettes made. We changed the design look along the way. And I kept all of the artwork because I love to see process. And so, maybe if the film ever gets seen by somebody other than at festivals, I have a treasure trove of artwork leading up to the finished product.
Where would you say the process differed from a fully studio financed project?
Um, well, okay, for one thing, we we knew we didn't have distribution. We knew we didn't have executives sitting on our heads telling us change this, change that. You have freedom. It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
You lower budgets in independent filmmaking. Creativity abounds, but you don't have a backup really. So it's money is probably the biggest difference. And you're not, and you're making the film you want to make. I mean, we can talk about independent films that have been my favorite films tend to be independent.
Hmm.
They're thought-provoking, they make me cry, they make me laugh. Not to knock studio films, because I love studio work too, but I think I like indie more.
Hmm. That's fair. That's
And
not uncommon amongst creatives.
yeah, and I mean, and I have friends and family who make spectacular studio films. Um, but the only ones I ever really want to do are independent for some reason. I remember who was it? I forget the director. He's an actor too. He had directed a lot of independent films. You'd know who he is. And one day they handed him a pile of money to make a studio picture, and he didn't know what to do with it. He had never had that much
Huh.
money at his disposal or that much muscle behind his project before.
That happens a great deal, though. The studio system sees an independent filmmaker. This is why film festivals are so important, and that's more of an agency handle. Film festivals do the work that agents sometimes say they do. Agents are not watching hundreds of films. They're waiting for the larger festivals like Sundance, which is a big one, to screen the films for them, find out if those people have agents or representation, and if they don't, swoop in and make a deal, get them reps. Differently, on the smaller festivals, distribution.
There are many smaller fests. By the way,
Hundreds.
the top festivals, the top 10, the top 15 have been almost sort of co-opted by the studios
Oh, yes, the
because
support alone. Yeah.
no, I mean, I was an associate producer on Call Me by Your Name, which was a completely independent film when we started it.
Mm.
And it had a director who was a festival darling, Luca Guadagnino. So when you have somebody that the festivals love to begin with, you're going to get in automatically. But other than that, it's very hard to get into festivals. There's a lot of competition, more than ever, especially the big ones. You can get into probably hundreds of smaller festivals, but they're not going to necessarily sell your film, you
No, the
know?
festivals themselves also don't do the selling of the film. It's just where the sales reps, where they go, where the agents go. That's where
Right.
That's the market. Although the last few years have not been very fruitful with sales at especially Sundance. Things
Yeah.
a bit later. Um, it's been it's been an interesting transition in this market.
The industry's in a bit of an upheaval still. We're sort of at a crossroads right now, and we have been for a little while. But and now the whole AI thing, which is just tiring to think about and talk about, it
Mm.
is changing everything. There's battles being waged. How are films going to be made? We won't get into all that today.
No, no. But I am very curious though, so you've had you just did this film which was to Flower of the Dawn, independently
Or
funded.
yeah.
Um, what would you say is if I'm an independent animator, if I am a Tongal creator, or if I am in college, I'm getting out of SCAD or UCLA, and I may not necessarily want to write all of my characters, all my world. I just want to animate these characters and bring them to life. What would you say I have more? Where would I be better suited? Would I be better suited in a studio system, or would I be better suited in the independent world?
Could you clarify what you mean when you said you
So,
don't want to
I,
write the characters?
so as we'll be talking with Signe and Debbie later today, and they are writer slash animator of their projects.
Very much so, yeah.
If I am an animator and I am not necessarily a writer, what is the better pathway for me?
Well, first of all, find some writers that you like working with.
Hmm.
Because even though you're not a writer, and when I say you, I'm saying the universal you,
Sure.
um, you're still a creative person and you're still going to have lots of ideas. You may not be the expert at dialoguing them or structuring, your story, but undoubtedly the idea came from your head.
Hmm.
And I'd say independent would be the way to go because selling something to studios or to networks or streamers now is not easy.
No.
It's a committee system. It used to be different. There used to be one person or two people in charge who would call the shots all the time.
Hmm.
And now everything, it's very hard to get green lights on things. Also, you'll be put into a pile of development with a lot of other people and a lot of other projects, and most of them will never see the light of day.
Mhm.
Independent filmmaking, raise the money, do a crowdfunding thing, find independent investors, find a wealthy benefactor or whatever, and you will have the funds to make the film. I mean, that's kind of what I think would be the way to go for what you're describing anyway.
I do see, because I monitor so many independent creators through and for Tongal, there is a greater support system, a greater community, supportive community for animators than there is live action. And I think that's because live action tends to gravitate towards a certain type of individual. More often than not, we're still in the Tarantino A24 phase of
Yeah.
first-time filmmakers. I'm either going to use crime, or I'm going to use subversive horror at some point. Whereas animation is any number of avenues. It's just as many ideas as there are genres of animation.
And documentary animated features now too.
There are some really wonderful
Yes,
documentary
there are.
animated features, and I think we're going to see a lot more because now that people are learning how to work with archives, I think people are going to get very inventive and
Yeah.
going to find ways to visualize, and this is, I think, where AI comes in a little bit more,
Probably.
visualize audio or broken footage in a more complete way. I'm open to that. I think, I don't ever want to see AI take work away from human creators. However, for example, if I am an independent filmmaker and I am trying to make a 20-minute documentary based off of audio tapes from the 1940s, and I only have
Yeah.
that, and my budget is $5,000 to do it, then I'm not going to be able to hire a quality animator for 20 minutes of animation, but I could work with an AI animation software or platform to generate images, to generate some motion to go with it. I'd hopefully not rely 100% on it, But I think that's where it is more assistive. And of course, we can talk about exploitation. Studios have tried. We see this still. They're trying to make it work, and they believe that
Yeah.
will replace human animators, but you're still going to need humans to operate it. So that's a little bit of a larger conversation. But I do feel that AI is probably more supportive to independent filmmakers than it is to studios.
I mean, yes. And listen, there are always going to be artists who want to craft things, for lack of a better term, the old-fashioned way.
Mm.
I mean, look what won the Oscar last year for Best Animated Feature Film, Flow. Now, that was not created in a traditional, totally independent, by the way,
Yeah,
not created in a traditional sense at all. And it used technology that didn't exist just a few years ago. Gins Zilbalodis, he did a lot of it himself initially until he finally brought a crew on board, and it turned out well. It turned out very well. I think it's a
it's wonderful.
glorious, in a way, groundbreaking film because he used the camera, the proverbial camera, the way that live action
Yeah,
filmmakers use a camera. It never stopped moving. You
very
couldn't
Altman.
have done that before. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, it's very Robert Altman of him.
In a way, although Altman also did his dialogue thing with everybody overlapped all the time. You could barely make out what people were saying half the time. But there
I
was no dialogue in Flow
No, that's true. There's only cat communication, animal communication. But
and other animals. Yeah.
I think about Altman's last film, A Prairie Home Companion, which I really like. The camera, there's no still shots. The camera's moving the entire time. It does not stay still. It's
I mean,
beautiful.
I have a pet peeve about vomit cam, I call it, when people do these verite, shaky cam things, because I have motion sickness.
Uh,
I've had to actually, in the theater, I've had to walk out of the room because I was physically getting ill. I could watch them at home when I could actually look away, but yes, the moving cameras, I mean, it's used a lot these days. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the mid-tier animation that I mentioned, the UPAs, the Hanna-Barberas, and what I find especially moving and important and vital about these systems is that they are primarily they did animated series. Some were work for hire, some were original. But within their free time, within their workly week schedule, they found time to do their own smaller shorts. And I think that is a system we can look to for sustainability now. Talking about scaling where, say, for example, I am an animation company, and there's like, we'll just say 24 employees that I'm lucky enough to have, or even a dozen, and we have however many commissions we have, and we're paying annual salaries. If we can find a way to scale it so that we're doing all the work we're hired for within a 4-day period, and then use that fifth day, the American structure, 5-day weeks, uh, to work on our own stuff that we can use to put out there in the world or maybe sell it or develop. I think that's a very fair system. I think it's a very good system. And UPA certainly did do that. Hanna-Barbera did a lot of stuff in their free time. Not all of it came to fruition, as you know, if you've read any of the Hanna-Barbera Lost Art books, incredible stuff. Um, but I think it's a really good example of a system that can work and keep entertainment uh, uh, scaled in the way that we've come to ask for it, but then also allow for the development of new talent and ideas.
And experiment with new
Yep.
story ideas, new techniques. I mean, some of the studios that you mentioned just now, and let's not forget Jay Ward.
Yep.
They used limited animation because they didn't have huge budgets, and that's how limited animation was born, really.
You're absolutely right. I find this interesting parallel. I know I'll turn over to you in a second, but if I look at like early UPA shorts, which I love, I have the entire
I
collection.
love them too. Yeah.
And like their backgrounds are not rendered. It is primarily, most of them are not rendered backgrounds. It's just like one or two solid images with solid colors with a little texture. I think about The Jaywalker, which is one of my favorite short films of all time. The parallels between that and like early Nintendo, like the original Nintendo and game system, NES, of like it's just a black background, or Atari, it's a black background. Here are the lines. Like it's starting at this base level of I'm focusing on the I'm not creating a vast environment for you. I'm creating an experience with them, with these characters and with motion, and it's bare minimum. And I think there's just something truly beautiful about that. I don't see much anymore.
It's almost like black box theaters when
Fox
when you
Animation, you're absolutely right. Yeah,
right. Although I will say that UPA did some gorgeous graphic design-esque backgrounds for their cartoons.
they did. Yes.
It was a distinctive style. And again, Jay Ward, same thing, the Hubleys, I mean, and since we're talking about independent, there's a long tradition of independent animators, in our industry, who are they were amazing. They were wonderful people. They moved the art form forward, you know.
Yeah.
The ladies today, I include them in that category who we're
Oh,
going to
I
talk.
would too.
Yeah.
I think, and both of them are, they have both animated over live action backgrounds. Signe, especially, as we'll see, have done that. That is not something that happens much anymore. It happens more with like motion graphics on YouTube than it does in, say, like an animated series or movie. But there's this, it's not a lost technique, but it's something that we've kind of, it's not commonplace, but we know it exists, but it doesn't happen as much. And I just want to talk about this one
Yeah.
very briefly about lost techniques.
Sure.
So, it's two things. Rotoscoping, I've always loved for whether it's just to develop character movement, like in Alice in Wonderland and all the early Disney stuff, or something more recent like Spine of Night, which I adore that film. It's horrific and wonderful. There's also this animation technique that the Japanese animators did for early anime in the late 80s and early 90s, where they had this use of light, where they would have light projected from the back of the cells, which created this glow. We don't do that anymore, and there is yet no system that can truly replicate it. And I feel that we've made. We can go back and do that if we wanted to, but going backwards can be a little difficult sometimes, as we know. I'm curious if there's another lost art form in animation that you want to call attention to, that people should look into along those lines.
Another lost art form.
Or technique, I should say.
Yeah, I mean nothing. Well, I mean, okay. A lot of people would say that traditional cell animation, hand-drawn animation, doesn't exist anymore, but it does. It's become the province of television for the most part. A lot of cartoon shows, but I mean, even there, it's digital. I don't know. I'm not sure I can answer your question because I still see everything happening. Hey, stop motion is as hands-on as anything,
Yep.
any technique could possibly be, and people are still making stop motion animated films. And there's a warmth and there's an immediacy to those that you don't get from other types of animation. I can't think of anything offhand I mean, yeah, rotoscoping is not done anymore, really, because it's been replaced by mocap
Yep.
and stuff like that. But
Okay.
yeah, I can't. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. I'm always curious as to what your thoughts are on anything.
I love all the different techniques. I mean, if it serves the story and it makes sense to be done the way that it's done, then do it. But gratuitous use of techniques, I could do without.
Yep.
I can't even right off the bat. I can't think of anything. But people are still making innovative films, and especially in the animation. Marcel with the shell on, and
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Jenny Slate, so good.
yeah, I'm trying to think. There've been. It hasn't stopped. It really hasn't stopped.
Before we transition to the latest, I do have one more question because you
Yeah,
mentioned,
yeah.
you talk about stop motion, and a creator in a conversation I was having the other day posed very interesting question, which I'm like, no, I think there's a distinct difference. The difference is puppetry considered animation? I believe it is not, but like if I'm looking at something like the Dark Crystal series that Netflix put out versus something Leica is putting out, I see
Yeah.
it's like Leica is stopping the camera and moving and stuff. Everything is a cell, as a frame. And then there's other techniques they use. Whereas with puppets, primarily it is just the camera's rolling and they're moving these puppets around. But it is an interesting because it's also like Leica is using puppets. Stop motion is using different kinds of puppets. So
Puppets with armatures. Yeah.
would
But
you
again, they're filming frame by frame.
so that
Yeah.
is that I think we can say then not that we're trying to define animation, but if we're going to define animation, it's not continuous. It's frame by frame.
I mean, yeah, and you know, a lot of the things that you're talking about use a combination of uh puppets, traditional puppets with animation techniques too. The Henson folks have been doing that for a very long time. You know,
They
you
have.
can't have Kermit walking on his own if you're not using some kind of animated technique, whatever that might be. Um, yeah, but hand puppets, I love, by the way, hand puppets, and I work on some TV series. I've written
Yep.
quite a few that are puppet, but there's still special effects that are animated. You know,
Yep.
I did a show years ago. The technique was still a little early, so it doesn't look as good as it should have. It was called The Webulous World of Dr. Seuss. And the characters were all puppets from Seuss's creations, existing characters, set against animated backgrounds. As it happened, it could have been better art directed, but this is a long time ago. If it was done today, it would probably be seamless and flawless. The writing carried it, and the charm of puppets, I think, carried it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is there's a lot of different ways to consider something animated.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's I don't like it when people call animation a they treat animation like it's something other than a way to tell a story. You know, I mean, yes, it's good that we have separate categories in the Academy Awards, etc., for animation, but really, it's a technique.
Yep.
It's just another mode of telling a story. Guillermo del Toro goes on and on about it. You know, he takes great exception
Yep.
to that.
It's not a
Um,
genre. It is
no,
sim
it is not. Thank you. I was looking for the word. It's not a genre. It is just a mode of storytelling.
Yep.
There's nothing you can't do. I mean, in a way, animation frees you in a way that live action does not. You don't have to point a camera at something that exists already. You can create it from the ground up.
Yep.
So, but you know, we're preaching the chorus here because anybody who's watching this right now is either an animator or very into animation. So
100%.
we don't need to convince them.
Well, let's get on to our ladies, Signe and Debbie. Alan, thank you so much, and I will see you.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next portion of this conversation.
The light finally breaks and lets the butterflies out. The sound of war recedes. My heart is ready for peace. I feel so small before this daunting task. When love takes off its confusing mask, I see what love could possibly be if I had the courage to break with conformity. I'd refuse to engage in this timeless war of who will lose or who could win more. I'd put a stop to this time-worn song on how to love and what's right and what's wrong. I dance on the graves of my many mistakes. They're cold, shiny stones. They teach me new rules. Tip top, tip, tippity top. I'm moving forward, I'm moving up. Tip top, tip, tippity top. I'm moving forward with my new map. Tip top, tip, tippity top. I'm moving forward, I'm moving up. Tip top, tip, tippity tip. I'm moving forward, going on a trip.
Bonjour. That means hi. I'm Mrs. Henri Matisse. I know you've seen my husband's work everywhere. Well, I'm not here to talk about that. I've only one thing to say. Let me get down to it. Love. Kissing and a hugging. Love. Squeezing and a snuggling. Love. it goes away.
So our theme today is going to be animating your own life, personal truth and humor, and also survival outside of the system, which you've both managed to accomplish and thrive at. There are filmmakers who don't just tell stories, they channel their lives and their personal experiences, relationships, family history, anxieties, heartbreak, and pet peeves, and transform all of that into films that are revealing and sometimes very, very funny. Our guests today are two smart, funny, independent filmmakers who've made an art form out of opening their veins and brains and splaying them out all over the screen. Joining us today are Signe Baumane, who celebrated shorts and features like Rocks in My Pockets and My Love Affair with Marriage. Both turned deeply, deeply personal material into visually inventive, emotionally honest, very often laugh out loud, funny animated films. She's now, I understand, hard at work on her new feature film, Karmic Knot, which we'll hear about. Like everything else she's created, it's being brought to life through persistence and creativity and an incredible ability to actually get it financed. So we're going to have to talk about that too at some point. We also welcome Debra Solomon, whose work includes the animated segments on Disney's Lizzie McGuire, as well as many short musical personal films like Everybody's Pregnant, Getting Over Him in 8 Songs or Less, and the recent Little Hurts, which I love, by the way, which all share her same unmistakable voice, literally and figuratively. Sharply observed, usually hilarious observations on the messy corners of her personal life. Right now, she's also hard at work on her next film, which doesn't have a name yet. She's calling it the Untitled Debra Solomon Project that will one day have a title she thinks will be very hard to come up with, but she will try and try again, knowing that, like Michelangelo, she will find the title in a big pile of words she has amassed. I like it. It reminds me of Can Hieronymus Merck and Never Forget Mercy Hump and Find True Happiness. If anybody remembers films from the
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it's going to be a shorter name when she finally names it.
Yeah.
In both Signe's and Debbie's work, some real life details probably change, and names I'm sure must change every now and again too, but the emotional truth is always there. So to me, what's most amazing about it, the kind of independent filmmaking that you both do, is not just that these films get made, but that they keep getting made outside the traditional system, sometimes taking years and on your own terms. Okay, welcome to Makin Toons, Signe and Debbie. How are we this fine evening?
We're doing great. Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely day.
Yeah,
And
the spring is here. And as I say, the time for vitamin D, but there's no time for vitamin D.
Right.
you have to make time for vitamin D.
Yeah, I think it's overrated. There's an Estonian saying, they say, you don't drink, you don't smoke, what you want to die healthy. And so, as an animator, you will not die from the excess of vitamin D. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friends and I joke about exercising, taking our vitamins, which just guarantees that our last several years, which will be, we'll be hooked up to tubes probably and sitting in things with wheels on it, we'll still be alive. But anyway.
And wait, when you're at that point, they will push you out onto the porch to get your vitamin D. But you'll be under a blanket.
Hopefully just my legs, not over my head. I want to be pushed out onto an ice floe.
Okay.
Like the Eskimos.
That can be
I'll get the
arranged.
Northern Lights. Yeah,
Right.
Both of you have drawn, again, literally and figuratively, from your own lives. So let's start there. Let's start with your personal voices. And either of I have lots of questions for both of you, but feel free, anyone, to jump in first. When did you first set out to mine your own lives as material? I'm very curious. When did that start?
Should I start, or Debbie, you want to start?
Yeah. My first film, I did not really set out to mind my own material, but it did because I went to the Matisse show in New York, and there was Matisse with Amelie, his wife, on the quay, and she's in a kimono, and he's doing all these paintings of her, and then you walk into another gallery, and there's this little sign that says Matisse moved to the south of France by himself. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks because having been left, I could project myself into her experience. And it was even funnier because I was dealing with an asshole painter rather than just some guy, and but the same, her lot was very much the same as mine in some respects. You get older, and in her case, you get fat, you get gray, and then so it was the way I entered into making films was through Amelie Matisse.
And that was your Matisse film, the short.
Yes. Yeah. So my experience was pretty much the same as hers, except I didn't end up in a Nazi prisoner of war camp. Yeah. Yeah. That
Thank
was
goodness.
good.
So far, so good, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What?
So far, so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is actually an interesting segue because Signe started out in the Soviet Union, which is not a Nazi prison camp exactly, but
close.
Why don't you tell us a little about that and when did you start to make films? Everything, anything, anywhere you want to jump in.
Talking about camps, I started mining my own personal life for stories when I was about 14, I guess. I was writing. I wanted to be a writer since I was 8, and so I was writing these very dramatic, big novel type, like love stories, like based in history and blah blah blah. Because that's what these serious writers were writing about. And then one day when I was 14, I wrote a short story about my experience with my mother. I was cleaning up larder, like a cabinet with larder. And because all this old stuff was there, and I was like, why these things are there? I don't understand. So I threw it all out on the floor, and I was just putting back only new things. And my mother came back from wherever she was, and she said, no, you can't do that. I need this thing, and there's a memory attached to this one, and we need sometimes once in 5 years we need this thing. And so she put everything I threw out, she put back on a shelf in a larder. And I wrote a story about it because I thought it was amusing. And at that time I was there's a literary club for talented writers who wanted to be young kids who wanted to be writers, and I was the only club member. And then a woman who was running the club, she was a publisher in a local paper, and so she read the story, and without asking me, she published the story in the local paper. And when I came home on Saturday after school, my mother opened the paper and she said, what I'm reading about our family dirt in a paper for everybody to read. And she was very, very mad. And I'm like, Ma, it's just a story. Why do you think everybody thinks that's exactly what's going on in our house? And but because it was based on true events, she really did not appreciate it. But this story helped me to get into a camp, the camp for young, talented kids. And
was this a government sanctioned camp?
Somewhat. I don't really know who sanctioned it, but yeah, it was nothing in that country. Everything was government sanctioned.
Well, I figured, yeah.
Yeah, but we were naughty kids, and we sometimes, like when you're 14, and you're in a camp with other 14-year-olds, you go on a journey, and you steal cherries, and then KGB calls you. That's another story. But anyway, yeah.
Did you worry? I mean, when you bring up the KGB and the fact that you were being creative in the Soviet Union, we've all heard the stories. I assume it's not all that different today. Maybe a little less, but maybe not. Did you worry at all ever about being censored or someone imposing their will upon what you're expressing creatively?
You know, I was born in this country. I grew up in that country. It's not like I was afraid, because afraid you means you have something to compare with. I lived and breathed oppression. And so for me, it was an accepted way of reality. The only thing that it was very interesting to see how far you can, push and how you can get away with stuff. And adults in that camp helped us to understand where the line is, where to push and where not. And they were encouraging us, but then they were discouraging us to go too far. But you are trained. The reason why KGB was interested in us, because one day one of the kids decided that we are going to do anti-smoking campaign, and we all were so enthusiastic. We're going to have demonstration against smoking, and we started calling people in a local town to come to demonstration tomorrow on the bridge at 1 o'clock. And we didn't even finish letter A in the telephone book. The KGB came running, because you cannot have demonstration without us, being approved by government. And then we asked, would the government approve the demonstration? And they said no, but you still have to ask permission. And on. So anyway, it's a long
No,
story.
it's absolutely fascinating. You must feel right at home now with where our country is going.
I have to tell you,
Yeah.
it is like deja vu, and that's where I started writing deja vu on many levels. First of all, Brezhnev, that a guy who was Politburo leader, when I was born, he became a Politburo leader, right? So I lived under his rule for 18 years, and he was a bumbling idiot. There were so many freaking jokes. They said, when he speaks in Congress, he has two microphones. The one microphone he speaks in, and the other he's given oxygen, because he was like mumbling, or he's walking the Kremlin, and whatever. I'm not going to tell you Brezhnev jokes, right?
Yeah, no, it's
But
interesting.
it
Never had
is
that
just
perspective.
it's just the same fucking bumbling fool that what we have right now in a White House. It is just astonishing. And then the other deja vu is that the collapse of a country pretty much starts in the same way. So it's like I'm living deja vu. I'm like, I already lived through a collapse of a country.
Yeah, I often say I'm glad my parents aren't alive today because they would be
Yeah.
losing their minds with what's going on. But let's get back to animation. Were there, both this is to both of you, were there ever things early on? Because it seems like you've both gotten pretty bold in terms of what you will put on screen in your stories. Did you hesitate initially to be as personal or as frank as you are today? Let's go to Debbie.
Yeah. When I was making Everybody's Pregnant, it actually was a reaction to the person I was married to. We were going to adopt from China, and he came home one day, and I had like hung up maps of China, and where the orphanages were. And I was a member of parents with children from China. He came home one day, and he just ripped it all down. And he just said, "We're not doing this." And
What was
I was like really so heartbroken. Oh, I see your face, Allan. It was so sad. Uh,
why did he have that reaction?
because he was gay and I didn't know it.
Okay.
I don't know. But he
Yeah.
decided that we were not going to do this. And I was incredibly so heartbroken that I just started making this film. And while I was working on it, I actually thought it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous and bizarre. And no one would ever be interested in this, but that I had to do it. And I have a lot of scenes in there, like gynecological scenes uh that I didn't think twice about, because I just thought people are gonna think this is, I don't know, just weird. And at that time, I was trying to sell an animated show. And right when I finished Everybody's Pregnant, I would send, the Bible for the show and Everybody's Pregnant so they could see what I could do. And they'd call me up and they'd like start talking about Everybody's Pregnant. They couldn't believe it. And I'd say, like, what about the Bible? Anyways. So, but that,
Fascinating.
yeah,
The comedian David Steinberg once told me that the more personal something is, the more people I can identify with it because they
right,
transpose their own feelings
right.
and their own experiences onto your personal material, which is blew my mind when he told me that. But it's so
Well,
true.
the deeper you go, you eventually arrive at a place where everybody lives.
Yeah. Even if it's different than their experience, they can
Right.
still say, that's like something that I experienced.
Well, loss, death. I mean,
Yeah, those are universal.
yeah. So I knew a gynecologist was showing my film in his waiting room to people who were trying to get pregnant. So,
Wow.
yeah.
But your film doesn't have a really amazing ending, like very encouraging ending. He
No,
probably cut it off before the end, right?
I don't know, but it is, I don't know why he was showing it, but I think it's a very realistic look at, the rough road of modern baby making,
Yeah. And you've both,
People
by
are,
the way, made films showing gynecological subject matter and in very animated cartoon, very graphic detail. I'm thinking now about Teak Beat of Sex. For those of you who haven't yet seen the shorts, they are fantastic. They're as blunt and frank as anything I've ever seen put on film. Have either of you gotten in trouble because of something or someone that you've put into your work?
when I made, oh, sorry, Signe.
No, it's okay.
Whoever
Yeah.
wants to go first. I want to hear from both of you. Yeah.
Yeah. When I made Mrs. Matisse, everyone said to me, you are going to get your ass sued off. People are going to sue you. The Museum of Modern Art, galleries are going to sue you, and the Matisse family will come after you like
Really?
bats out of hell. And sitting in front of me right now is a letter that I received from Jackie Matisse Monnier telling
What
me,
does the letter say?
you hit the nail on the head. She said that's exactly what happened. Amelie got old and fat, and he started chasing his models with a colostomy.
How attractive.
Like a man with accessories, am I right?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's great.
How old was he at
Thank
the
you,
time? Do
Raz.
you know?
What?
Do you know how old he was at the time when he was doing all this?
I think by the time he went to southern France, with the guy who painted all the lily pad, Renoir.
Yes.
Yeah, right. They went to France and sat out the war there. He was in his early 50s, I believe.
He wasn't that old. Okay.
And they bemoaned this terrible war interrupting their painting. And she went into the French underground.
Interesting.
With the daughter she had with him.
Oh my God. The reason I was asking is because I remember reading someplace that was it which painter was it who said, very famous painter, who said that early in his career, everything he did was to get laid. That was his motivating factor. That was his driving force. And then when he got older, it wasn't about that anymore. It was just about the art. And he actually said he felt calmer and more creative when it wasn't just to get laid.
I wonder why. Yeah, I mean,
focus, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, that just seems bizarre to me a little bit.
I'm just quoting, and I wish I could remember who it was.
But how do you know what painting is going to get you laid? I mean, is it going to match your sofa? And people go, oh man, your living room looks great. I mean, it's like,
I think it wasn't the
how do you
painting
know?
itself. Yeah, it was the act of painting. It is a very sexy thing to a lot of people to be with a painter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, women do appreciate
It,
talented men, that's for sure.
were they abstract? Was it an abstract expressionist? It sort of
It might have
sounds
been
like,
Picasso. It might have been Picasso,
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
probably.
women definitely work from a different place, obviously, because a woman painting is not gonna get any lead. She will, or just the opposite. If she's very talented, everybody is gonna run away from her.
Yeah,
And so her
especially
motivation,
men.
yeah, especially men, exactly. So there is probably different motivation and different object, so the way how we approach art and creation is probably entirely different. But people do point out that the women work and say women always put their personal lives in their films or in their work into their blah blah blah. And then they accuse me of they're like, oh, like reviews sometimes they scathingly say, oh, instead of therapy she made this film,
Oh,
or
I hate that.
like, yeah. And then when a guy makes a personal film, like where's it, like the bunch of like celebrated filmmakers made films that were kind of more personal than usual, like recently, and everybody is celebrating them for their courage to make personal films. and, and I'm like, well, what about me? What about Debbie? We make personal films and nobody's celebrating us for courage. Everybody's putting us down and says, oh, women, they always like to talk about their personal lives. So yeah, it's like there's a double standard somewhere there.
But
What?
Signe,
Double standard? I don't believe that for a second. In this country? No.
But I believe that every artist makes art about their lives.
Yeah.
Everything about how they feel, their reaction to wars. I mean, it is from inside. And when it comes from inside, it is about yourself to a certain degree. It's coming out of you. And if it doesn't come out of you, then it sucks.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
completely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I want the same question for you, Signe. Did you ever get in trouble because of your films are very explicit in terms of revealing your past? I don't know how much you've changed from the actual real events, but have you gotten in hot water at all because of any of them?
Well, yeah, I mean, like a reaction of my mother, my first story when it was published at age 14, she really didn't like it. She didn't whip me though, but she
Thank
could have.
goodness.
I mean, she could have, right? Maybe it changed my path, my trajectory of my career. But like things like when we were running Kickstarter campaign for my love affair with marriage, and one of my exes called and said, if you put me in your film, I'm gonna sue you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So then I called I called the immigration lawyer. I called the entertainment lawyer, and I said, so how do I protect myself? And they said, change the names, all names, every single one. I didn't know about the letters, but it's all safe. And then my other ex got really mad because he did want to be in my film, and he did want to, to be associated with the film. But my probably the biggest trouble I got in was rocks in my pockets because my family didn't like it, because they felt that I was spilling the secrets, and then some people stopped talking to me, and I stopped going to the summer reunions. There's a reunion of the family in June around summer solstice, and I just felt uncomfortable going there because I don't know how some people will react to me. Some people from the family emailed me nasty emails, and then I responded with love and like asking for forgiveness and all that. So what is the hot water? But your other question was also about taboo. What is the taboo? What don't you touch?
Yeah.
And I do want to say that all my stories on a film, they are not really real stories. You cannot make autobiography out of tidbit of sex or rocks in my pockets or my love affair with marriage. There are elements of personal life, but the story is not collection of facts. And so that is, you're a storyteller, you're not a fact collector.
Right.
But so I don't really do that. A big taboo for me is like self-pity. That is the big taboo. If you talk about your story, about your life, and you like, self-pitying, then that's a big taboo. No, big no,
Yeah.
Also, I don't really talk about my current life and my current relationship, I feel because it's sacred, and you go there barging like a boulder, you may ruin something, so I don't touch that. I also keep it to myself. So
Which is smart.
For me, it is to make it funny, to take every part of your life that you thought that would kill you, and make it funny. And in some way, okay, so it is therapy in a way because you master that, but I think more than anything, I like to end up laughing at what has really hurt me. And I think that's why people liked Everybody's Pregnant or Little Hurts, because in the end, the character is not completely vanquished. And it's just, I don't know, but I like it funny.
You inadvertently segued onto my very next topic that I was going to bring up
Yeah.
with you. But before we go back to that, I'm just curious because Signe, you said something interesting that women are treated differently, especially with subject matter like this. But here you both are, by any measure, celebrated, awarded, known. Both of you are known for what you do. So, how do you feel you've been treated differently or suppressed at this point? Don't you feel you've conquered that?
See, I don't feel and have really never felt suppressed. I felt like I work really hard, and then I make good things happen. I've never been up against I've never been up against men in animation. In illustration, when I was an illustrator, yes, I did. I felt that very strongly.
What
But
happened in that case? What did you feel?
people got jobs that I wanted. I worked as an illustrator for 18 years, and all I got was a Funny Bone Award. I mean, really, and I was a member of the, Society of Illustrators. I just felt it wasn't, I just felt that women weren't as recognized, the illustrators. It was like a boys' club at the
It's a mistake,
Society of
though.
Illustrators.
I
Yeah,
think it's a mistake to measure yourself by awards,
right.
because the whole idea of
But,
awards is crazy, and everybody loves to win them, but it's the
but
work that matters. That's really
well, it isn't even the awards now. It is getting into a festival. I'm
Mm,
not trying to get awards. I
yeah,
want my work seen. I'm
yes,
not sitting here, all the time, to make something that nobody sees.
absolutely. We what we create, we want it's not just for us. We want people to enjoy it or be scared by it or made to feel whatever. So why
Yeah.
don't we segue back into where you had led us? Because both of you have used humor in your work. I've seen both of your work over the years, but I purposely watched things again and saw some new things over the past few days. And I was laughing out loud at a lot of it. And it just got me thinking, it really is what you were saying a minute ago, Debbie, that's like it's like a perfect coping mechanism.
Right.
You know,
I just want to mention one thing,
Sure.
really quickly. Even Lizzie McGuire,
Yeah.
even that character was me when I was 15. My father used to call me wise ass or wiseacre. I was like, just like really sarcastic. I was called a rank out queen. I mean, that was the way I saw the world. And that is what I imbued animated Lizzie with. And I think Walter Kerr said that the Lizzie character was like a teenage female Woody Allen. It just, and so even in that commercial work, I was able to put myself in it.
I'm going to ask about the commercial versus the personal later on,
Yeah.
but is there? Yes, making fun is definitely, you can do things in comedy that you just can't do in anything else. I even wrote a book about that called "I'll
Uh-huh.
Never Put Out on the Air," and all the censorship on television, well, for a while dropped away because of comedy. So,
Mm-hmm.
because you've both used so much comedy in your work, do you feel that you've been able to do things that you couldn't have done had you approached them from a serious perspective?
I personally don't make a comedy. I never set out to make a comedy. I, I'm like, I'm just gonna tell what's on my mind, and if you,
Mhm.
whatever, you know. And so then I'm like surprised that people laugh. I'm like, why is this funny? But
Really?
yeah, it's like I'm just gonna tell the way how it feels, the way what I think. And I think that my brand of comedy, if you want to call it, is not really funny jokes, not like Comedy Central jokes. They're
Absolutely.
more like unexpected. Like
That's
because
what
they're,
comedy is.
That is what
It's
Debbie's
the
right.
surprise.
yeah, but
It is the unexpected that catches people off guard, and
Yep.
then it's funny.
If we have to analyze it and break it down into its components.
Sorry
yeah, yeah,
for my,
Bill
comedy
Plimpton,
101, but
yeah, Bill Plimpton says this formula. He says, like if you want to be successful in animation, you make films short, fast, and cheap and funny, and then you're going to succeed and blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, everybody can understand what is fast, what is cheap, what is short, but not everybody understands what is funny. If you can define what is funny, then you're really giving a good advice.
right.
And so he mulled it for a few years, and then he wrote what is funny from his point of view. But I personally, I don't set out making funny films.
Yeah,
But you do. I mean, funny is a very subjective thing.
right.
I've been in theaters where I'm laughing my ass off at something, and I look around and they're sitting stone-faced, and I'm
Right.
thinking,
Right.
what don't they get? Or vice versa. They're
Yeah.
laughing at things that
don't
I just can't believe.
I don't set out to make things funny. Um, I uh I tell it as I experienced it, and then bring to it the inflection that I learned in my home from people from, can I say Jews, telling stories and telling stories that always end up funny. I started making a film about not being able to have a baby,
Yeah.
and not and the heartbreak of what I would not have in my life. I never thought it would be funny. I made that film because I had to,
Yeah. Which actually reminds me, all your films have music, original music that you
Mhm.
write and sing. Um, I probably asked you this years ago at the HBO thing, but
Yeah.
what comes first for you? Is it the song? Is it the idea, or is there no rhyme or reason to all of that? It's just whatever pops into your brain. But I think well, tell us.
I want to show you a drawing that I have next to my desk.
Sure.
Okay. It says, is it backwards?
No,
No, it's reading right. Yeah.
Okay.
First, do I draw or do I write?
What do I do first?
And you don't know.
Well, sometimes I get an idea. Sometimes I'm playing around with the keyboard and I write something and that becomes an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
But
I
the songs,
knew exactly how I would do it, I would be so happy.
yeah.
Right.
But how
But
about the aspect of the music aspect? Do you get the idea for the song before the story, or does that also not any set way of working?
because I end up singing the lyrics, I come up with a beat that I really like, and I have a subject matter, I think. I actually can't even tell you. And I'm not being, yeah, I
Okay.
love, but I love writing songs. I love that. And you know, it's just part of what, because when I was a kid, what I really wanted to do was turn into Ethel Merman.
Really?
Or yeah, or just like, or be on Broadway. I really, and I did act a lot when I was in high school. So I would go to all the colleges and I would try out for, you know, plays and stuff. And
Most of the musicals?
no, none of them were musicals.
None of them were.
Most of them, most of them were very serious, and I'd end up standing there like melting like a candle on stage, like not. Yeah, I really, I'm most comfortable behind the paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Signe, do you also what's the germination of an idea for you? What kicks things off? You're making another film right now. I don't know what it's about yet, but
Yeah,
where do
well, yeah,
yeah.
no, it starts for example, Rocks in My Pockets. I made at that time I made like 16 short films, and I thought, well, this is the time I do a feature, because like what stops me? I mean, fear stops me, but you know, I was like, let me just start and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the feature, but what about what? And I was like, well, I made all these sex films, and because sex is on my mind every 9 seconds. But every 13 seconds, I think about, I wouldn't say like killing myself, but erasing myself, like not existing. Like I really want to not exist. And I thought, well, let me go into that train of thought, you know, like see if I can make a funny film about depression. And so that is where things like flow out of that. And that is how it happened. I wrote a script. The words came first, and then the visuals came. For me, the visuals and the words are in a separate parts of the brain. And so
Interesting.
when I'm writing, I'm not questioning what I'm seeing. I don't want to even know what I'm seeing, and they're not related, and I don't want to know. So then I wrote a script, and then I started working on visuals, and that is entirely different process. Then the words provoke certain images, and I work with the images. But then at that time, I'm not able to write anything, because that is my visual brain is open, and the literally brain is closed off. And my love affair with marriage, I wanted to make a story about my second marriage. But it turned out a little different, and I got the science there as well. And so it started with idea that what general subject, and then it went into script. And now current film, there was in one time in pandemic, I was standing by a window in kitchen, and I don't know what your experiences in pandemic, but mine were pretty tragic, you know, because we have hospital not far from my studio, and we also have these funeral homes, quite a lot around in Brooklyn, and I'm seeing everything and it just was like horrible, horrible.
Yeah.
And then also the packages started not arriving. You order something online and they don't arrive, or they arrive 3 weeks late or 6 weeks late, you know. It was like, and I started feeling this familiar feeling that something is collapsing. And it's not, and then also the other thing was that the drivers became horrible. Like the driving in New York, they just like ignored lights, whatever light was, they just drive the way they wanted. And I thought this is all is very familiar. It's like deja vu. And so that was I already lived through the end of the country. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make a film about the end of the country, and family living through end of the country. And so that is what my new film is about, Karmic Knot. It's about family. Yeah, it's about family, but it's also about the collapse of the country. And it doesn't collapse like all at once. It collapses in several stages. And you can sense it that it's coming before it arrives. So yeah.
That's a great subject. And obviously it's taking you, how long have you been working on it now? Is it several
Yeah,
years?
no, I started writing the script like around 2021. Finished it like 2023 or four. Because it's ensemble piece to write a feature screenplay where there's a family of four and then I have five and then I have six. It's like, and then giving equal time. It was really, really cool. It almost broke my brain to write it. Yeah.
Complicated.
Yeah, complicated. Because it's karmic knot. It's a knot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what karma is, right?
Of course.
Karma is when you
doesn't?
do stupid shit over and over, and then when you learn your lesson, you reach nirvana. Karmic knot is a group of people forced together by a situation where they're not happy together, but they cannot leave. And so, and that example of it, it's a family. So the film is about family.
That's COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is COVID. At least it was for me. Living in a house with people I didn't know. And some of, it can be very, very, I think a lot of people had experiences like that during COVID, wanting to escape. Yeah.
I mean, everyone's experience was different. I also live in a part of town where I'm surrounded by hospitals. And there are some funeral homes nearby, but there were these giant refrigerator trucks filled with corpses.
Yeah.
So when I would venture outside, and the streets were deserted for a long time, as I'm sure you remember, it was a ghastly experience.
Yeah.
And I was by myself. I have a partner, but we did not get together for a few months. So everybody's experience, I think, was different during the pandemic. How were you?
Certainly was.
What was yours like?
I'll share this for the first time publicly. I think I stepped into a parallel universe. I thrived during COVID. Every day I woke up to, like, yes, the horrors and the loss of life on the news, but like for me and my career and my profession, and then even oddly enough, my social life, things just started to take off. And I don't to this day understand what shifted. So Signe, you're making a film about that experience and how negative it was and a collapse. And here I am. I whatever the opposite of a collapse is, that was my trajectory. So every time I hear folks talk about their experiences, that's where my humor comes from. Is like, oh, you guys all had a struggle. Sure, we all struggle. But it was a time of growth for me. And like the garden was blooming, so to speak, during COVID. And I knew when it was happening that in that moment, I'm like, oh, this is not everyone's experience. I'm in a weird spot right now. So
I just want to correct. I'm not making film about COVID.
I'm
making. I just wanted to clarify. I'm making film about collapse of a country. For me, pandemic was really also good because we didn't have to go and see anybody. So we locked down in a studio, and we accomplished so much. We accomplished in 1 year what we would achieve in like 2.5 years.
amazing.
Yeah, and so it just shows your social life is freaking death to animation.
Huh.
As long as we're making connections.
I'm sorry. I just want to ask about that a little bit more. That makes sense. That is something I've never heard anyone talk about, actually.
But a lot of creative people actually feel like that. Signe, the guy who owned Blue Sky, what is his name?
Chris Wedge.
Yeah, Chris Wedge said at a lunch that he wishes it was COVID again, that he felt better about things during COVID. I made an entire short during COVID.
I got a phone call right at the beginning of the pandemic from Nickelodeon. They needed a show, one of their shows, existing shows, had written, and was I interested? And I jumped on it. So from that room, you can't see it, it's in the other room. I literally head wrote 26 episodes of a TV
Wow.
series for them. So while the weirdness was going on around us, and it was weird,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
but we had work. I think all four of us had work to distract us,
Hmm.
engage our minds, stay productive and creative,
Right.
and for me, make money. I mean, it's a good thing. I wonder, what did you all do to make money? Were you all working? Were you all earning money during the pandemic, which I guess is about 2 or 3 years?
I mean, we had we just before pandemic, everything we almost are near bankruptcy, and we didn't know how we're gonna proceed with our project, with my
Oh
love
my
affair, with
God.
marriage. But somehow, I don't know, magically, because I don't know why, we had a fundraising effort, and then one more, and we suddenly got the funding with the support of our backers and supporters, and we were able to, and then we got also a bunch of grants, so we were able to pull through, and so it worked for us.
Hadn't you applied? I mean, I know the grant making, giving process and applying process, it usually takes quite a bit of time from when you apply until you get the money. So you had put all of that machinery in place beforehand, not even knowing there was going to be a pandemic, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, but I mean, as an independent animator making feature film, you always teeter on the verge of bankruptcy, and so we're always making an effort. Always, it was like constant. Yeah.
Well, this is something I actually brought up when we first started to talk today. The ability to get private projects financed is not a skill that a lot of people own or are good at. Both of you obviously have figured that out. And it seems the universe has taken care of you. Could you talk a little bit about this?
I was, I went from paying a New York City rent
Yeah.
to living at with he was then like a boyfriend. I moved in with his family, and all of a sudden I didn't have to pay rent. And
Mm.
not paying rent was completely saved me. Um, Before that, I worked and I subsidized my films. My first film, I illustrated during the day
Yeah.
and I animated at night and on the weekend. And that is how I have made all of my films. I feel really lucky too, because I happen to have another talent which I use to great effect, is that I was very lucky in real estate.
Hmm.
And you know, I have actually made, yeah, so the money I've made in real estate has been incredibly helpful in making shorts now.
In other words, you bought places and then you sold them.
Flip
And so,
them.
yeah, you didn't go out
It
as a
was
real estate broker.
it actually I was told I had so many listings I could be a broker.
Really?
Yeah. So I was when was this? It was like in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I thought everything was so cheap. Everything looked so, you could buy a building for like $200,000. That's nothing. And I you know, I looked for apartments, and um what I did was we bought an apartment, and at the time I was married to an architect. We'd redo the bathroom and we flipped it. And the last time we flipped it was the last time I was able to do it, because the boom had just started.
Wow.
And the real estate agent said to me, you're lucky it closed when it did, because everyone had gotten all these huge advances, and that
Yeah.
was the beginning. That it actually was the beginning of the real estate bubble, really.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which I, for some bizarre reason, knew was coming. And yeah, it just
It's interesting how the universe takes care of you if you are proactive. If you sit and cry or whine or fret, nothing good is going to happen. But if you continue to be productive and put yourself out there and do whatever it is that we do, I'll include myself in this. Eventually, good things happen. I mean, my whole life has been like that.
I'm not saying that I've never cried and whined.
Of course, we all do. We all feel sorry for ourselves sometimes, but
Yeah,
I've never been one to sit around waiting for things to happen.
right,
Right
right.
now is not a good, and this brings up the whole commercial versus personal aspect of filmmaking, but it's not a good time for the business because almost everybody knows is out of work. People who would go, I've done a lot of TV series. I've gone from one series to the next, but I've
Mm-hmm.
always launched my own stuff too. So many people are not working right now. I have friends who are they're doing survival jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, if you keep generating your own work, and I think all four of us have done, not, I don't think, all four of us have done that. It's interesting how things work out.
I think the way that creatives often work, whether they know it or not, is kind of like water flowing down a mountain. It will find a way to reach its destination. You can't control the path, but you will find a way to get there.
Yeah. Um, and speaking of commercial versus personal, because we were talking about personal filmmaking right now, I know that Debbie, you did Lizzie McGuire, you did a pilot called Nikki.
Yeah.
Did that turn into a series?
Um, no, it didn't because the people who were making the decisions brought it to the wrong buyer and they didn't listen to me.
I've had
It
that
should have
happen.
gone to Disney and they brought it to Nickelodeon. And it was just like, they're not going to buy it, but they didn't listen to me.
Hmm.
So, but yeah. And Nikki was about something that I love to do is I was following people who were having a fight. And
This is a hobby of yours?
no, it's not a hobby, but if I'm near people who are having, walking behind them and they're having a fight, I find that incredibly interesting.
Yeah, I
It's
do too.
yeah,
I mean, I would never have allowed disagreement with a partner or a friend in the street because it's sort of, for me, it feels sort of crass to do
uh-huh.
that. It's not everybody doesn't feel that way, and I've heard extremely explosive arguments and very
Yeah,
deeply personal ones
yeah,
in public. And so that's one of your things is listening in.
yeah, yeah.
Have you put that into well, you put it into Nikki.
Nikki, they are following someone who is crying,
Oh yeah,
right?
the blonde woman.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
which is so that's another example of what you were saying earlier, that even stories that are not technically about your past or your life, we put ourselves into them.
hmm.
Uh, aside from the obvious differences, being paid, how does the process differ for you for making your personal work or commercial work? Or is it the
Me,
same? Yeah,
um,
and either. Well, I know that. Yeah, you go first.
uh, um, I never set out in a commercial opportunity to put myself in the job. Um, it, I just end up there.
It just
And
happened. Yeah.
yeah, if someone comes to me and I'm creating something, that is, I mean, if I was creating a male character, probably that would happen too, so I just think, you live in your experience of the universe, and that is what you tell stories about.
Yeah. And Signe, I mean, you've stayed on your own path. Have you ever looked at that other world, that commercial world, and been curious or been tempted?
I mean, of course, I mean, I want the money, but
Yeah.
the problem is that nobody wants me to do commercial work. I mean, it's like it's a destiny. I came to New York in 1995, and I've been looking for commercial for first like 10 years. I looked for commercial opportunities, and I got like illustration jobs, but never in animation. because my animation skills are not or were not good enough to be on that level, you know. My designing skills were, you know, not also not on a level. And as a being director, you know, Americans have their own directors, you know, like why I can't compete. And also you need to know the culture to be a creator of the shows, and you have to live this culture. And I came here to New York when I was like 30. I didn't know American culture. I grew up in Soviet Union. Now, of course, my cultural expertise of Soviet Union would come in handy, you know. And
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah,
you can tutor us.
yeah, I could give you like master classes and living in
Yes,
authoritarian regime of idiots, you know, or idiocracy. What is it
Oh,
called?
we are living in an idiocracy right now.
Yeah.
We are. But Raz, you were about to ask something.
What?
Raz was about to ask a question.
Yeah.
I was actually, I apologize. I'm so genuinely curious as to the answer is different for everybody, so I just want to get both of your takes. What is the most, what personal project of yours gave you the most spark? The one you're like, I have to start working on this now. I have to prioritize this today that you've done.
I mean, every project for me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I never lifted off of ground anything. I don't feel very 100% invested. I mean, you can't. If you're not 100% invested, you're not gonna even, you're gonna nibble at it and then you just set it aside. Animation is too hard to do. If you're not 100% invested, you're not gonna do it. So you have to be 100% in it.
Do you have a favorite project though? Looking back, I mean, you have quite a body of work at this point, even though you're still going, obviously.
My favorite project is the one who I'm gonna make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating. And Debbie, I know that you're working on the film that I jokingly, gave that very, very long name to. But what is your new project? Can you say a little something about it?
Um, it basically revolves around projecting yourself into your pets.
Huh.
And that is what people do, is they look at their pet, and my dog always looks depressed to me. That's what it's about.
Do you think your dog is depressed or just looks depressed?
I'm pretty sure she's depressed. She's yeah, I feel like she is.
A
Yeah.
mother knows. A mother knows.
I mean, she's started on two different medications.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh dear. Are they antidepressants?
Anti-anxiety.
Seriously?
But part of that is Lilac, my dog, is a COVID dog. So her first 2.5 years were not in New York. Not New York City. She was living in a place that we never heard a siren, like nothing. And then we move into a hyper busy neighborhood because it's commercial and residential, and it's just crazy. And people are, dropping the back, that lift on a truck, they're dropping that, bam, garbage cans, people screaming at each other. I mean, it's chaos in the city. And so, yeah,
Dogs are very sensitive
exciting.
too. They're
Yeah.
very sensitive to a sound and smell, and
Mhm.
obviously.
And
my dog
skateboards terrify her.
Really?
Yeah, just think of it right near. I mean, it's the wheels on the cement. They make a huge amount of noise.
You do. That's a good
You
point.
have a neurotic dog.
I have a depressed dog.
There was a book. There were two books. I knew the author. Stephen Baker was his name. I don't know if he's still around. It's a long time ago. He wrote How to Live with a Neurotic Dog and How to Live with a Neurotic Cat. Do you remember these books?
No,
And
I never saw them. Yeah.
Oh, they were great. He invited me. I met him at the gym. He invited me to see his apartment one day. He's not trying to pick me up. He was straight. I went there, and he lived in Tudor City, which is, if I don't know if you guys are familiar with where
Yeah.
that is, overlooking the East
Yeah.
River.
Yeah.
His apartment was the Green Goblin apartment from the Spider-Man films. Triplex, gigantically tall windows. I walked in there. I had never seen anything like it in New York City before.
Uh-huh.
And then when they used it in the film, I said, "Oh my God, I've been in there." And so he made a
Yeah.
lot of money from those books.
Yeah.
And that's how he had managed to live there. But I
Yeah.
digress. Um, I think we can start to wrap up, but I have a question for both of you. A lot of people, this is being made for Tongal, which is a consortium of animators and creators that Raz is part of. A lot of them are filmmakers and do personal films and do commercial work too. For
Mhm.
anybody who's watching and listening to this today, who also aspires to make personal projects like yours, what kind of advice would you tell them? What do they need to be prepared for? If you had to write a primer of how to go about this, what would you say? How would you advise?
For me, as I mentioned earlier, a big no is the self-pity. And also a big no is the language of therapy. Because it's like every film's, if you use language of therapy, every film is the same. It's like, oh, do you analyze instead of telling the experience, you analyze it and you come on with the conclusions, and that is something that you should never do. You have to convey the feeling of experience directly from that moment of experiencing it rather than analyzing it. When I watch films that try to analyze something and say, oh, I am depressed because of this and because it's just not a good story experience. The journey, I mean, it's good for therapy, but not good for film. The journey of personal films is always the journey that has not been digested, that the audience can analyze and digest. So that is like one thing, but self-pity is like a lot of films I see where people go there and saying, oh, this horrible thing happened to me and I have to tell it, and I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna make everybody cry, my cat died. And I'm like, okay, but that's not a good place to start a story, the self-pity. And self-pity, I think it's a sin. It should be one of the sins after what was it, cheating on a spouse and stealing?
Sloth and avarice and I forget what else.
Yeah, but self-pity should be a sin. And so that would be my advice, to be aware of these two sins, the therapy language and the self-pity.
So that's from a storytelling perspective. How about from a practical perspective? Someone's never done it before. Where would you tell them to start? And Debbie, you're gonna
Like if they want to do animation?
if they want to do an animated film. Yeah.
Okay. Debbie?
What? Excuse me? Start again? Could you ask that again? I was like, what? Yeah.
That's okay. No, for anybody who's watching this podcast and hopefully learning a lot about what you folks have done and would like to make personal films themselves, how would you tell them to start doing it? Well, I mean, Signe gave some very interesting storytelling advice just before, but
Yeah.
You might have the same perspective or a practical approach.
I think we have somewhat different approaches, which is what makes the wonderful difference in the end product, is that we're coming from different worlds and our experiences are quite different and yet wonderful, in themselves, like, and not similar. I really believe in journaling. I have been journaling so long that I've been dragging like hundreds of journals with me. And when I just look at them, they're hilarious. I mean, the stuff that I've written, just drawings, and it's like the drawing I just showed you. It is in that introspection. I feel that looking at analyzing and looking at your life or a problem hits you and you're like, why? And how can how did this happen to me? And why did I get into this place? And I do think that the language of therapy might hinder, but I do think that therapy in a way allows you to turn around and see yourself and to see, for instance, that you're doing stuff over and over and over again. And most people never see that.
I know, Debbie, I'm not against therapy. I'm just saying
No.
yeah.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I said using the language of
Yeah.
therapy. I know you're not against therapy.
Yeah.
The language, but I am very much toward, in favor of turning around and seeing yourself and the mistakes that you make, and then you can see other people that making those mistakes. I went to see a doctor. I'll keep this very a doctor that I've been seeing for a long time, and she starts talking to me about her daughter. She has 3 daughters. So none of them are in animation. So that's it. She starts talking to me about her oldest daughter, who's like making her angry and asking her to do things, and they keep bumping heads. And she was like, I don't know. I saw what she was doing. I saw that she was making her kid crazy. And it wasn't a matter of what the kid was doing. It was what she was doing. And she kept doing it. She told me all these instances, one after another, where her daughter did the same thing. And I thought, and getting the same reaction from you, because that's what people do. It is knowing that you're in that cycle that allows you to stop it.
Yeah. I witness stuff just walking around town. I see things that make me laugh, or I have to write them down. Like you said, you journal. I do too.
Yeah.
I'm constantly writing things down because you never know. Most of the time we have thoughts. I don't even know how to harness many ideas. I don't know what they're destined to be. Should they be a film? Should they be a book? Should they be an anecdote? I've been writing a lot of essays lately. So yesterday, here's an example. It's just a tiny little thing. I was walking in the street and a woman was yelling at her young daughter. Oh God, I'm going to say it anyway. She yelled, "Alexa, Alexa, stop that. Alexa, stop." And I thought, oh my God, if this woman has an Alexa in her house, that's the worst thing she could have possibly given her daughter. And it gave me all sorts of crazy ideas. Now, of course, yeah, mine lit up. But anyway, we digress. Any final words? I'm loving this tour, by the way, Signe. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, it's a studio.
This is cinema. Look at this. Wow, you have a big place there.
Yeah, no, it's a big studio. Yeah, we are building actually. Right now, my assistants are building these buildings, the houses out of cardboard.
Wow.
We did not talk about that. The fact that you've been using live sets as your environments for your animated films.
Yeah, there's 3 yeah, no, that's and this is like our what do you call it?
The shop.
Yeah, the shop. Sturgis, my partner. I'm gonna introduce you to him in a moment. But yeah, this we have a lot of sets here.
Wow.
This is from my love affair.
Oh.
And then there's like nothing inside but paper.
That is beautiful.
New York Times. And then here is a set. This one.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Oh my God. Don't pull away too quickly.
Yeah. That's
it's beautiful.
These are fantastic.
These are outstanding.
And Sturgis, Sturgis.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello there. Beautiful work. You're
Yeah,
hungry.
so yeah, no, they can hear you.
Oh, okay.
But hold on, I can't hear. Hold on, why I can't hear you? Oh, now can you say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, Sturgis.
Hi, Deborah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good to
Good
see you.
to
Good to
see you.
see you.
I've got a question because you just showed us these sets. I have not seen that technique used an awful lot. I mean, since the Fleischers did it with their early Popeye, the turntables that they built with the live sets and then the glass plate putting the animation on top. What inspired you to start doing that?
Well, it's an evolution, starting with Rocks in My Pockets, building a 3D set. And we did a lot with paper mache back then, and I was only involved a little bit. And then with my love affair with marriage, I became the carpenter and building more elaborate sets.
Yeah.
Then with Karmic Knot, even more elaborate sets.
Let's go and show them the shooting room.
Shooting.
Yeah,
Please do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a
I didn't
tour.
realize I didn't know we're going to get a tour. This is great.
Yeah.
De-
It's,
Deborah, have you been to this space before?
Yeah.
Many times.
Many
Many
times? I know you
times.
two are friends, so I was just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. No,
Okay, so
many
here-
times.
here
It's a
is
wonderful space.
Yeah, here's a
Oh my
camera.
goodness.
And yeah, we have a rail. I don't know if you remember Jimmy Picker, but he went
Of
out of
course.
business and he gave us his rail. And here is a set.
Jimmy Picker with
Wow.
the twirling bow tie.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so this is from above, and then you can see the puddles. I made puddles in the middle of the street.
That is amazing.
But yeah, anyway, so and here is a camera, like you can see the camera.
Question for you. Are you going to be doing stop motion as well, or is it characters are all going to be
Hand drawn inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm not good stop motion.
Well, there is stop motion. Sometimes the set moves, and
Yes,
often the camera moves. So that's
Right.
stop.
And then the characters are interacting. The doors open in stop motion.
Yeah, no, I've seen it in the feature
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
It's
It's
an amazingly
interesting.
wonderful.
I try to do this in my films, is I create a world on paper and in color. And it's very analogous to what you do when you're building sets. It's that you create a world for your story.
Yeah.
That's what everyone, I think that is a very big thing, I think, in animation, is creating a world that not only a visual world, but a sonic world. And that is how I get, part of how I get there is through music and song.
Oh, yeah.
So is creating that world. And
Yeah.
Signe builds these marvelous sets.
And
the
part of
biggest
the key, actually, a crucial key is how you light them. Because
Yes.
a lot of people build incredible sets and they don't light them well.
Yeah, but we have like I don't know if you saw it. Sturgis built the grid and this one, if you see the lights, they're complicated, but they're all like self-made, do-it-yourself kind of lighting.
Yeah.
But when you just go down and shoot it, it looks gorgeous. So whatever looks good. Right?
Yeah.
The key is a dimmer board. You have to be able to dim them so you can
Here's a dimmer
sculpt
board,
the light.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I've done a lot of stop motion with companies in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And I visited and I've seen the sets are just mind-blowingly fantastic with very complicated rigs and lighting. I love that you're combining your 2D animation with 3D.
Yeah.
It's a great look.
Yeah.
Thank you for the tour and nice to meet you, Sturgis.
Yeah.
When can we look for your next films to actually be finished, both of you?
Mine is going to be done in 2028, most likely 2029.
Oh my gosh, that's 2-3 years away. It takes time, I know. Does that ever get to you? And Debbie, when is your next film going to be done?
will be done at least in a year. So I worked on this all last year. It's 10 minutes. And now I'm animating it. And generally my 10-minute films take about 2 years.
People have to understand that about animation. A lot of people don't even bother to think. It takes so much time to do anything.
You just do it and do it and do it until it's right, until it makes you happy.
Yep. You have to be very patient in this business.
Right.
I think that for me, I'm totally impatient. Every morning I wake up and I'm like, this is the day when I finish the film, and I can't wait. And I'm like, okay, if I just work for 1 more hour, I finish it. And so that's how I go for 10 years. And then you finish it. But if you're too patient, like Yuri Norstein is very patient, right? He's working the same. Yuri Norstein. You know, they who made a Tale of Tales and Hedgehog in a Fog. You know that he's a Russian animator who is making a film already for like 50 years or 40 years.
I'm not familiar with him.
But I'm not saying that I'm patient, like it's okay with me. I really push. Every day I sit down and I go, I am going to finish this scene. And sometimes it happens and a lot of times it doesn't. But you need to have an insane drive to keep going back to the desk.
How deep into the night will you work?
Oh, I don't work deep in the night because I'm a Cinderella. I have to be in bed by 12 so I can be at work at 6.
Function the next day. How about you, Deb?
I get up at 5 or 6, so I can't go to bed late. I just can't, and that's fine.
No, but it is, because in animation, it's a long haul. If you like spend a bunch of nights, it's like a very amateurish, I think, to spend a bunch of nights doing something, like you have to measure yourself. It's a marathon. You don't run all of the gas out in the first mile, you have to save and measure yourself. You say, today I'm going to work 9 hours or 8 hours, and I'm not, because the next day you have to be able to work next day and next day and next day, and then for 10 years. So I don't really believe in all-nighters, really.
Yeah.
Although
we've probably all done them at some point or other.
Of course. Yeah, of course. But I mean,
when I was an illustrator, it was feast or famine, and you had book deadlines and working in advertising and crazy stuff, but it's so much better to be working on your own. It's much better.
I mean, I remember many nights where I had to work because the deadline was the next day and I'd already been working for weeks on something.
Right.
I don't drink coffee. I remember drinking coffee at 3 a.m. I've taken cold showers. This hasn't happened in a long time, thank God. But you do I wouldn't, at this point in my life, no, I'm done with that stuff.
One thing you should know, you invite Signe to a party and at 10, she's gone. And I think that's great.
I have no problem with that. I'm the same, by the way.
But it's a wonderful thing to control your life like that.
Anyway, I really look forward to seeing both of your next works. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. This has been wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed the process.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking with you. And see you soon at some point.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let us know if you need anything.
Thank you, Raz.
Thank you, Raz.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Take
Thank
care.
you.